the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to more.
Coming to you live, deep within a windy and rainy and sometimes also sunny radioactive meme land, we are the survivors of the alt-right kek-apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the lobster hordes with Rantzerker 116. Feminist Bingo with Stuff Mom Never Told You Feminism 4.0. Boy, they like the awkward titles just like we do.
Yeah. Well, the
Maybe
name of the podcast overall, the series is called Stuff Mom Never Told You, and this specific episode we're looking at is called Feminism 4.0. So maybe this why I was just, I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of making whole new shows, but why don't we just start calling this just Feminist Bingo and just start numbering that? Just out of curiosity.
How much anger did you just incite with that suggestion? Well, you know what? We'll leave it up.
Okay.
Leave
Leave it up for consideration.
Leave it up for consideration. Changing the show from Rantzerker to Feminist Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not always Rantzerkering feminists. Sometimes
that's why I'm saying sometimes it's not Feminist Bingo. That's like a separate animal. And,
yeah, because sometimes we go after people who do not identify as feminists, but still seem to have the same attitude towards everything. All right. Do you want me to go through the card right now? I think I'll do that.
Yeah, let's find out what's on the card for today's bingo in order.
All right. Okay, I'm glad you asked that completely random question that was totally not prompted.
Yeah.
Today's Feminist Bingo card, starting from the top left, which is the card's top right, but it's our top left, and going across the row is incel/MRA/red pill/right winger. It's the first top left square. The square to the immediate right is patriarchy. And then going forward, racism, toxic masculinity, trigger warning. The next row starts with misogyny, then goes to wage gap, gender traitor, historical oppression, intersectionality. The third row starts with dictionary definition, then it goes to privilege, then it is the free space with the women with the fist.
The feminist logo that looks like a woman punching inside of a uterus.
Yeah. Who the heck? Anyway. And then it goes to emotional labor. Feminism has no power. That completes the third row. On to the fourth row. Starts with ableism. Goes to black feminism. Feminism isn't a monolith. Mansplaining, my body, my choice. And then the final row starts with rape culture. Goes to body positivity. 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. LGBTQ 1AAPP2.
It's IAPP2, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
IAAPP2.
Did I just commit a hate crime?
Yeah. Yes, you did. Well, there is no one. That's less than binary. Okay.
Oh,
that's worse.
Gosh. Okay. Well, I apologize to everybody who I triggered with my hate crime there. And the final bottom right corner is harassment,
which is what this video is for everyone watching what we're doing right now.
All right, so let's just start.
Okay, we're gonna start by gotta do an intro, the intro from the show, so you guys get a sense of what we're looking at here. I had to hunt around for a podcast, and this is the one I chose. So, let's just get the intro so you guys get a sense.
I'm curious now. Why did you choose this one?
Well,
pray tell, sir.
Okay, so first of all, it was between this and, I'm not kidding, there's a podcast called How to Be a Girl, which is a podcast series with a mother and her transgender 10-year-old daughter. And I almost went with that one because it was the last episode I listened to was called Turning 11, but it's just I can't even laugh at that. It's just awful. And I also like started to listen to RuPaul has a podcast, and I almost went with one of those. But the problem is that there's a lot of chatter about shit I don't care about in it. And so I settled on this because this podcast specifically, this one titled Feminism 4.0, is about, what wave of feminism we're in and why feminism is still a dirty word. And those, I guess those podcasts that are basically saying, why don't people like this term anymore? I just think that those are the best because a lot of the stuff gets listed off and you get like the sense that these are, they're not normie feminists. They're not like coffee shop feminists, like the wake the fuck up ones. They seem to be more educated, but it's still pretty basic. And so what the thing is that with feminist arguments, you've heard them so many times that you may as well just play bingo. And I'm actually going to do another level. I'm actually going to be drinking along with this. So I'm going to do bingo / drinking game. I have I have some booze here, so I'm going to see how far I get. So we're either going to get blackout bingo because I think we might, or we're going to get I'm going to black out. I don't know which is going to happen first. Probably the bingo card, but what?
I'm not joining you in that endeavor because I think that might just actually qualify as a dangerous workplace right there.
You can just drink tea, so it's okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna drink tea, but I will drink tea
like Kermit the Frog.
Like Kermit the Frog with great amount of quiet attitude. I'm drinking this tea and I'm judging you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Judging you so hard. All right,
let's
start.
The one with the trans kid, I might do some future time when I find one that but that's definitely going to be a rage. That's not going to be hilarious. That's going to have rage. All right, so let's establish. We're going to set the tone with an intro. So here we go.
Hey, this is Annie.
And this is Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio's How Stuff Works. So for this episode, which is kind of your first official episode as full-time host.
My debut, right?
Yeah.
My official debut.
Your official debut.
I'm a pro at this now, y'all.
Yeah, it just takes one.
I'm not.
We're going to do kind of a check-in on feminism.
Feminism.
Yeah, what it means to be a feminist today, the F word.
The F word, the dreaded F word.
And this was your suggestion, Samantha. You kind of wanted to, when I first came on, I did bad feminism.
Right.
Because that's something I struggled with a lot.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but just feeling like I wasn't a good enough feminist.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll check in.
Yeah, I think it was important. I was like, let's just kind of start the ball rolling again because the definition changes. Not necessarily the main definition, but the outlook of it changes by generation, essentially. And it's kind of baffling how even in this day and age, I have younger generations of mine, like in my family, who refuse to be called feminists, even though they're trying to work in fields that are pretty sexist in general. And you're kind of like, wait, how do you not want to be known as a feminist in a culture that is going to use your sex against you?
Alison, if you want to say something, you just got to start talking. What's weird? Oh, there it goes. It was weird because it wasn't. The player FM was not showing me the time code where I was at, which is strange.
Okay, all right. So I'm back from the time warp or whatever just happened, and I just had this insight. They think that people rejecting the label feminism is more of an indication that more feminism is needed. So until every single person identifies
we're back. I think everything kind of like glitched out for a second. Go ahead. What did you guys hear last? Because I don't know why that happened. It was just strange. It was just like a hiccup
in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I was talking about? Because
I did hear you starting. I did hear you starting, but I wasn't sure if the people watching heard. Like if they heard the podcast up until this point, but to reiterate, they were saying the one host is saying, I don't know why people don't call themselves feminists or something like that. So
yeah, and I just cued in that they're not going to think, they're going to think that the work of feminism is incomplete until everybody identifies as a feminist. They use that as a reason why feminism should exist. I mean, that's so diabolically dogmatic. It's like the reason why feminism needs to exist is because most people don't identify as feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to take that and actually introspect on why that might be. Maybe there's a bit more baggage than the dictionary definition of feminism that people
Yeah.
reject out of hand. And it just clued in that they're going to use any rejection of feminism as justification for feminism.
Yeah, it's like that
And
law. That law, the one
Mhm.
that yeah, any conversation about feminism justifies feminism.
Yes,
It's
and it's so tiresome. And
yeah.
the fact is that they're taking it as a matter of course that their female relatives are in careers that are sexist. No indication what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Or and furthermore, again, there has never been any scientific proof for the conjecture that we live in a society that wants to benefit men unfairly over women. So proposing that a field is sexist against women is an extraordinary claim. And neither these women nor the feminism that they believe in has ever offered extraordinary evidence of that extraordinary claim.
Mm-hmm.
In even in a subculture, much less the overarching culture. All right,
All right.
I'm ready to hear more.
Okay, let's hear more.
Wait, did we get
And
a
I think-
bingo?
Did we get bingo already? No. We'll no. I don't think. I mean, technically, they started talking about my dictionary definition, but I think that
Yeah, that's we got to get a little get more specificity.
yeah,
because
I don't
otherwise
want to just
you're
jump
gonna
on it
die of
because
alcohol poisoning.
yeah.
I was like, we need to come back and have another.
But I do want
revamping.
to propose any people not identifying as feminism being a reason why feminism should exist or justifying feminism.
Yeah.
People refusing to identify as feminists justifies feminism. Just like people
Oh, yeah.
refusing to identify as Nazis justifies Nazism.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
continue.
All right.
Being another conversation again, not necessarily for our listeners, because most likely our listeners already understand and are on top of it. But there has become a whole new label of like, what is a white feminist, and what is a feminist who is an ally? Like, it's just a
What's
whole different label.
What?
She
A
says
wifeumist?
no. She's saying what is a white feminist? Because
I
white.
heard wifeumist. I'm like, what? Do you
Yeah,
mean like
she's
somebody
she's talking a
who
little
believes
fast.
in the ascendancy of waifus?
Yeah, right. No, she's
I
saying
think we
she's
have
talking
some in our
about
Discord.
she's talking about white feminism. So, but like they're basically breaking it down into the subgenres of feminism. It's almost like the subgenres of dubstep or something. So
Now,
Yeah.
and especially with the fact that we have to be very, very specific.
Yeah. And doing the research for this episode, I've found that a lot of people are kind of confused
Yeah.
about where we are with feminism. So yeah, let's get into it. And first, I love a dictionary definition.
Yeah, give me that dictionary definition.
Oh
all
my
right,
fucking
all
God.
right, here we go. We got my dictionary. Where is it? Where is it on the card? I know it's on here. There it is. My dictionary definition. Check. Okay, because that's important.
All right. Feminism is 1, the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. 2, the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes, what I call the Beyonce definition.
The Beyonce definition. Well,
3, the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. And 4, the doctrine advocating social, political, and all other rights of women equal to those of men.
I'm trying to figure out how any of those are really offensive.
Okay, well, why isn't the original like if a bunch of Nazis had a podcast and said that Nazism is about the legal equality of white people with other minorities, which indeed they do say it is, and
or they
and
said something like it's basically like the putting Aryans trying to give back to the oppressed Aryans because of their oppressors, the Jews, or something like that, like essentially, right? Yeah.
And if a Nazi podcast asserted that Nazism really is about equality for the white man or white person, could we not point to the history of Nazism and say, you have a bit of baggage there. And that is the actual what Nazism actually is in practice, and also what it was sort of founded to be. And you can't really just get away from that and then start saying, "Oh no. We're really about equality now." My dears, you have a history in feminism. You have a history in relation to the coining of the term. And the coining of the term is explicitly thus: society should be judged by the benefit it gives women. Not the benefit it gives everyone, not the benefit it gives men and women and children, just the benefit it gives women. Society's moral axis should be women's benefit. So a good society gives women more stuff, a bad society gives women less stuff. That is the coinage. That is what feminism was fundamentally, foundationally meant to mean by the person who coined the term, Charles Fourier. Now, you can say whatever you want, and the dictionary definition can be whatever it wants to be, but you have not actually proven that modern day feminism has gotten away from its roots as a system of judging society by how it benefits women. And incidentally, that is distinctly supremacist. I mean, if I said, let's create a society that judges how it benefits white people and nobody else, you would understand that that is supremacist. I mean, you could insert any group, how it judges black people, how it benefits black people, how it benefits Jewish people, any group of people. That is a supremacist statement, because you're essentially saying the great work of society is to benefit one group and ignoring the effect or the impact on every other group. So from its very inception, feminism was distinctly supremacist, distinctly unequal. And there hasn't been anything that feminism has done from its very inception, from the Tender Years Doctrine that made it so that women exclusively got child custody during the tender years over their husbands, not shared but exclusive custody. From that to the vote, which created a system of complete inequality, because once again they were just judging society by how it benefited women, so they completely omitted all of the cost to men for their citizenship privileges. They omitted looking at that, and they didn't give those costs to women when they granted them all of the benefits of citizenship privilege. Once again, the vote, granting women the vote, was another act of supremacy by the very explicitly supremacist founded movement feminism. And it's impossible, and it's an inescapable conclusion to come to, because women got the vote, all the citizenship privileges, without any of the citizenship responsibilities expected of men. That is a supremacist decision, a supremacist move. So from the very start, feminism has been supremacist, and every one of its actions has been supremacist. And furthermore, the dictionary definition, most of these definitions assume an observation about reality that hasn't been proven, namely that women are victims of inequality, that of an inequality that has no corresponding benefit to it. For example, not being able to vote, but also not being expected to serve the state in wartime, or in many cases, citizen men were expected to serve the state without even having the vote. So this is, I mean, I don't know where to go with this. They are ignorant about the history of their own movement. 1, 2, they're hiding aspects of their dictionary definition, which is the assumption that women are always suffering from inequality. And 3, there's no exit plan. There's no point at which they actually look at the situation of men and say, oh wait, maybe we've gone too far. I mean, I would argue we went too far with the vote without corresponding privileges. Went too far probably with the Tender Years Doctrine. But they're never going to look at the possibility that their belief system has gone too far. You can't even question their belief system, and their belief system reduces women down to victims of everything. And if you question that as a woman, if you question your role, your feminist role as a woman to be a victim, they will make you a victim. I wonder why your relatives don't want to identify as feminists. Wow, it's such a mystery.
All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna jump ahead a bit now. Unfortunately, and I don't know why this is, the player FM is not showing me the time codes now when I like mouse over it. So I gotta kind of guesstimate it. So for that, I apologize.
Can
I
you
don't.
open it up in iTunes, maybe?
I don't have iTunes on this computer. So no, I'm afraid not. And there's no download link either, which I don't understand why they don't let me download it, because they like it depends on where you go, but Player FM does not let you download it. So I'm just gonna have to, but it's okay. I should be okay. I'm just gonna.
But yeah, it is problematic when you start thinking about it and you have to watch yourself, because you and I, like being in this podcast, I've become hyper aware of the fact that you need to watch what you say. Yeah. And it's important. And it should hold you accountable. For sure. But to be under that kind of microscope, I'm like, am I being a bad feminist? Yeah, I might be.
Yeah, that was one of the first things when I was entering talks about would you host this was, no, I don't know.
It's
all
really
these things.
scary.
It can be. Quick aside, Lauren over at Saver, who's my co-host.
Just, okay,
Jeez,
so...
This is a great advertisement for your belief system.
Yeah. That's what I thought this was a good one, because it was them saying, they were talking about, because we jumped a little bit ahead, the call out culture, basically, where, they have to constantly self-observe and find out if they're doing feminism well, if they're being bad feminists, and it makes them actually afraid to make feminist content because they're being called out, but they're treating it like a good thing. They should say, well, everyone should, be careful of what they say and how they represent ideas and what they support and so on.
Yeah, this is bullshit. This is more than just being careful about what you say. Fair enough. But this is actively being afraid of your community that you're in, because the moment you make a mistake, they're going to descend on you and tear you apart like barracudas. All right, you know what, ladies, enjoy your side of the chasm. I'll be on this side.
Yeah, really.
Kicking back with my tea, my very judgmental tea. But I'll everybody on this side of the chasm doesn't have to worry about being thrown off the cliff for saying the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, but let's continue down this road here a little bit.
Over there, she was telling me about this comic book where it's like a matriarchal society and they say father f***ers instead of mother.
Oh, I like that.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
But seriously, why would they? Okay.
I didn't know that. Is motherfucker an anti-woman thing? I think they just convince themselves that
mothers?
It is. Yeah, men do.
Mothers?
That's what I'm saying.
Fathers fuck mothers.
Yeah, fathers. If a man who's not a father could fuck a mother.
Yeah, but technically, a man. Mike pointed this out. A man who fucks a mother is a father. It could not be a father, but in general, it's a father. So this is a prerogative towards fathers.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess their matriarchy really hates mothers.
I guess so.
Well,
it's
maybe
strange
they don't get
no, I think they've
they
convinced
only get
themselves.
custody like 15% of the time.
Yeah, that's right. Because if they were going to reverse everything, somehow I doubt that. I don't think that the suicide rates would be much higher in their fantasy matriarchy. So,
well, yeah, because they're not going to do it any kind of justice, because their ability to analyze society is about a nanometer thick. That they can go about a nanometer deep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's continue.
And our motto on this show is that we're always learning and growing together. But one thing, there are cases of like legit bad feminism,
right.
For example.
What was that?
I said until you stab each other in the back. What a surprise that women are drawn to this constantly evolving social battlefield.
It's interesting that the in this podcast there's a lot of talk about how scary social media is, but they never address the elephant in the room, which is that, you know, social media is a space primarily controlled by women, like Twitter and Facebook and, you know, places where you can be vocal about your opinions, and Instagram and so on. That's like when when there is blowback, when call out culture starts, when people start getting thrown under the bus, and, you know, they get accused of things, it's women mainly doing that stuff, you know, because it's sort of like it's where they rule. It's in the social. You know, when they talk about where men tend to like congregate and talk, it's usually, you know, YouTube, where they're making videos towards, and women are making a lot of videos on YouTube, obviously, as well. Or they're on forums and boards like Reddit and 4chan, but they kind of like stay away from what we call social media, where you're like, you know, commenting on other people and sharing pictures and so on. But and that is where the call out culture tends to manifest. And oddly enough, you know, they don't identify that as something that women do. They identify that, and I've seen this a lot, as something that social media does to people. Like, by it existing, it makes us into monsters. And I've heard this argument. Everyone makes that. Yeah, I'm like, no, this is the way we are, and this is just the tool, you know?
Yeah, but the other thing is that obviously this call-out culture is attractive to women who want the thrill of destroying someone socially. It's like, for them, destroying someone socially is like grabbing your gigantic war axe and splitting someone's head open. It's an enormous thrill for them.
Yep.
And they may find it scary to wade into the field of battle with your intersectional axe swinging. I don't think they find it that scary, but they enjoy the feeling of crushing bone and sinew and the guts split out all over. They love that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, metaphorically.
And they're ruthless too. I mean, it's
a social destruction of another human being. That's what they love. And that's why they're drawn to this completely immoral, frankly, immoral call out culture. Like it's immoral to just have this incredible indulgence in the destruction of other human beings.
Yep.
It's frankly repulsive. Like, it's not even a situation where you are a soldier fighting for your homeland. You're just a goddamn criminal enjoying the thrill of murder, of social murder. This is what we're listening to. We're listening to two criminals justifying their thrill of social murder. I guess that was a little bit too much. You know, that might be a bit.
Well,
intense.
they're not necessarily celebrating it. They're telling us that it scares them, but they think it's a good thing.
Them.
Like, it's a good thing because they want to be better feminists, and so they think
because
that's the purpose. Yeah,
that it thrills them. There's no, like, if it really truly scared them, if they were really truly women who aren't interested in this kind of thing, they wouldn't be in feminism. They wouldn't be enjoying call out culture, which is an excuse to socially destroy people. They wouldn't be doing it. I mean, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. If they didn't like the battlefield, they wouldn't be on it. If they didn't like murder, they wouldn't be murdering people. Yeah. They would be defending people against this kind of extremely it's inconsistent. You know, I mean, call out culture really is just social bullying.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't,
absolutely.
You know, they wouldn't be taking part in this. They wouldn't be taking part in policing other people's speech. And then the moment that somebody makes a mistake, they jump all over them and tear them to shreds. They wouldn't be taking part in this. Okay, I've said my piece, so let's continue.
Okay. I got a super chat. Ciara Flora gives us $10. She just sent this through, or he. I think it's a she, though. I had to stop listening to the Brother podcast to this one that's called Stuff You Should Know when Josh Clark went on a rant about how men need to get some perspective in their birth control episode. Yeah. You know, I didn't know about that one. That could be a good one to look up. I just did a search for popular feminist podcasts, and this one is on that list. And surprisingly, you know, they didn't have like a super ranty podcast about you know, female bodily integrity or whatever the fuck they would want to call it. But nonetheless, thanks for the super chat. Okay, let us continue.
Example, TERFs are trans exclusionary
Right.
radical feminists.
And that's a back and forth that we've had to talk about because I know a prominent author made a statement and was very, very exclusionary.
Yeah.
And you got it. Why? You know what I mean? We're all in this together at some point.
Something else I think we all struggle with is having a lot of us have memories of not being a feminist or not being a good feminist.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. I was raised to think
What the
that
hell did
feminism
they
was.
define as a good feminist?
Constantly being aware of a good feminist. I think they didn't define it, so they get into that a little bit later. But in short, a good feminist is one that is intersectional, basically. So you have
Okay,
to.
do we have any bingos?
I got my dictionary definition so far.
Yeah, I know we've already got that one.
That's it.
I propose being a good bad feminist, being a good
like a
feminist
gender
is the next
traitor?
one. Yeah, gender traitor.
Could be.
I don't know if that quite gets to gender traitor
Yeah.
level. I guess it doesn't.
Well,
I'm just wondering what
I didn't
the
expect
definition is.
I didn't expect that one to be on the card. The good what is a good feminist? But like it is getting to that point where the intersectionals are, drawing a line in the sand and excluding other feminists that aren't doing intersectionality. And they're even doing it to other intersectionals that aren't doing intersectionality well enough. There's purity testing going on, right? So they mentioned TERFs briefly. And of course, most feminists will say the only example of a radical feminist is a TERF, which obviously is ludicrous. And then there is, again, non-intersectional white feminists, basically where, and feminists that may not be those things, but still be, for example, if they're rich and they're Hollywood celebrities and they're feminists, they'll say, well, you're not a real, like you lose feminist points because, you're rich and powerful and all that. So it's just sort of like, splintering in a bunch of different ways. So,
of course, because like I said, it's really about fractionalism and violence.
yeah.
But go back a little bit because she's starting to talk about something that you can grab onto, which is an anecdote, I think.
Yeah, let's go back.
We all struggle with is having a lot of us have memories of not being a feminist or not being a good feminist.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. I was raised to think that feminism was, well, to put it bluntly, a sin. And even small conversations that I've had recently, that was a conversation that feminism was the end of humanity and all the goodness. Like, yeah, and that it was a tool of Satan. Like that was actually quoted to me recently.
Well, to be fair, Christians usually believe that you should center God's benefit, not women's. And the other thing is that feminism very well may be what destroys the world, or at least our society, because you are creating this narrative in which the most productive members of society are told that their productivity is killing society, killing the people that they care about, women. And that's a really powerfully, it's a very powerful narrative. It's a very corrosive and powerful narrative. And if you keep promoting it, eventually you're going to either find that your most productive group of people, which is young men 18 to 35 or even 18 to 45, you're going to find your most productive class of people starts being as productive. And as much as you think that we are just, US society is the end all and be all, there are other societies waiting in the wings for the US to stumble. And if that happens, things will go down things will go south pretty quickly. And it doesn't have to happen. But I don't think that society is going to sustain this level of like a schism in our beliefs about morality. Like I'm looking at yesterday we watched the Not All Men Twilight episode.
Oh.
And
Twilight Zone episode called
Twilight Zone,
Not All
yeah,
Men.
Twilight.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Twilight was a better love story. But so we're watching this, and I've noticed that there's this increasing emphasis on this kind of extremely black and white moral attitude towards the world. So, in other words, the people who believe this stuff believe that if you are on the top of the moral caste system, you're simply just right and better than everyone else below it, which is basically a Bronze Age hierarchical structure or society, except instead of subjugating people at the point of a knife, you subjugate them at the point of social ostracization by call out culture. Well, yeah, unfortunately we have a complex culture that requires a hell of a lot of more nuance in our moral thinking than this group of people are automatically right and everybody else is automatically wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to the moral foundation for a complex structure. That is the moral foundation for a savage and undeveloped civilization that simply is it just simply tribal. This caste these caste members are right, everyone else is wrong, and everyone else is subjugated to them. Well, like there's a reason why diverse democracies are the most prosperous. And it's because they have that kind of a moral nuance and because they inspire people to feel like they belong to something greater than themselves without losing their individuality. And we're going to lose all of that as these people, these moral hierarchists, construct their new society based on moral absolutism, like these women.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I got another super chat from Fresher Luke. Hey, Luke, what's up, man? He gives us $10 and he says, where do you think the thrill of socially destroying someone comes into play in relation to the idea of the prestige economy and men's goal of climbing the hierarchy?
I actually think there's more of an inclination for men to capture cooperation with other men than there is for women. So there's a demarcation here. Women tend to be much more territorial than men. I think that there's less. It's interesting because women are more territorial, but men can be more xenophobic. But at the same time, this is the nuance of the human nature. There's so many contradictions and eddies and different flows, and you really can't understand it necessarily with the kind of black and white rules of feminism or moral absolutists. You sort of have to have a wisdom when one thing applies and when something else applies. But I don't actually think that men are really inclined towards call out culture because there is that instinct to cooperate with other men. But for women, while they have, I think, a greater general tolerance for each other, they are a lot more. Um, they don't. They don't feel like. A lot of women don't feel like they can construct something in partnership with other women. When they do that, they are always looking for how they're being cheated by other women, and whereas men have a mentality where they can see how setting aside their own personal interests to cooperate with other men in the future can benefit all. Or even they don't even see their own self-benefit as being the critical thing at issue or the
Mm-hmm.
critical matter at stake. So I like I said, I don't think can call it culture is what quite as interesting to men. I think women are much more interested in this kind of social destruction. Um, and they're much more equipped to do it
Yeah.
because for a lot, we
Oh,
all
yeah.
have that first experience of belonging that was with
Mm-hmm.
our mothers.
Yeah, I
So
think
they
that
set the
also,
pattern.
it seems that in general, when men try to start drama, rumors, and so on online, without evidence, it's less likely to get picked up.
Yeah,
So.
because a woman's word alone is evidence.
Mm-hmm. And so that is incentive right there to even create those, kind of whisper campaigns because people aren't going to really challenge it in general. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next bit. Again, I gotta kind of estimate because it doesn't let
It's
me.
very liberal
Yeah.
for the most part. But let's
I
go
want to
through
jump
in the early,
to
late '90s
a little.
or the '80s.
Sorry.
It was changing for me. So yeah, that's when I was like, oh. But I really was not originally a feminist.
No. Yeah, I wasn't either. And I mean, I didn't really know. I had the same associations that a lot of people have, which is why they don't want to call themselves a feminist, is that it meant like you didn't shave and
Right.
all those kinds of ridiculous things.
Right.
And for a long time, feminism.
And yet, there are like not that this is the clip I wanted to go to. This is kind of dumb, but and yet you can find articles all over the internet of, women braiding their armpit hair and just that's all like the crazy, the new thing is growing your nose hairs out and coloring them. Like that is the stuff that isn't even worth responding to, but it is out there. So, let's not pretend like that's not happening.
Well,
But
let's put it
Dolores
this way.
Huerta.
You're more likely to be against shaving if you're a feminist.
yeah, you're more likely to be against it. I would argue that's true. Okay, so I'm gonna go back a bit
We
here.
have to continue.
And classist and ableist and white.
Oh shit! Wait,
Yeah,
there was
and
a
then
whole
all
bunch of
those
stuff
kinds of
there.
ridiculous things.
Right.
Whoa! I think we just checked like 7.
Yeah, I
doxes.
know. That's what I need. I need to play it again.
And for a long time, feminism hasn't been intersectional. It's been classist and
Shit,
ableist
there we go.
and
Okay,
white.
intersectional right
It's been intersectionality. So we're just gonna I gotta take like 3 shots here. Intersectionality, and then she said classist, which I don't have. I don't think that's on here.
there. You didn't have it on this one, no.
No, but
Okay, but-
and no, I didn't put it on here.
Okay, keep going though.
Yeah, let's keep going. She said it's white and something else. Ableism.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then
ableist. That's right. It's ableist. Yeah. So
There we go.
where's ableism? Boom. All right. We're going. Now we're trucking. Okay.
It's been
Do you
previously
need to pause a
discussed.
moment to take those 3 shots though?
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Oh my God!
Ugh.
Please don't die, Brian.
I'll be okay.
Please don't die.
When we look at the history of feminist activism, we have to continue to credit many women of color as being the pioneers of the fight.
Black feminism.
Black feminism. That's black
Yep,
feminism.
black feminism. There you go. Okay. Let us continue. Got to give credit to the black women.
And I think for a little while, they were kind of just erased as people who were making history and
Are
making
you
changes.
freaking
And
kidding me?
Yeah,
the
really.
suffragettes were so racist.
Well,
they
they're
were erased with it.
yeah, they do go into the suffragettes thing, which actually because they do have a problem with the suffragettes racism and how they excluded women of color, but all it means is that they're ultimately like it's sort of like it is going to be an exercise in cherry picking I think that's where the narrative is going when it comes to feminism's history. So there will be an acknowledgement of the racism of the suffragettes. However, then they're still going to say, but they did get the vote. And so they're going to give them credit for that. And then but at the same time, they're going to wag their fingers at them because, well, those were racist women and let's acknowledge the women of color. So this is how they're going to play it so that they don't make the suffragettes look bad while also taking credit from them. Credit for shit they didn't actually do, but yeah.
It's interesting how they'll call out the racism, but of course they completely just gloss over the foundational principle of that feminism is about judging society by the benefit that it gives women. But that's just that's just water under the bridge. We're not even going to address that. That's just whatever. Okay.
All right.
women like Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, Shirley Chisholm, Dolores Huerta, and organizations like the Mississippi Labor Union, which was created in 1866 by Black women, who was the first labor union in that state. I mean,
Wow.
they should be celebrated even more and be recognized for what they've done for feminism in itself. I mean, at this time, I think slavery had finally ended, and they came together, and it was all Black women. I think they were laundry women. I don't know what laundresses. Is that a thing?
Laundressists. Okay, so that's racism. I'm gonna put that in there. And yeah, so like that's another one on the list. So they're talking about that they formed a labor union supposedly, and they must have done it because they're women. Historical oppression has to get checked off as well.
I'm just going to point out here again, all of the things that they're talking about have no meaning except that it creates a moral caste system with some people on top. If these women were white supremacists, they would just be using different events, different logic, or not even logic, different assertions to prove that their particular group should be on. And it's just as blank, it's just as plain and empty of all actual moral meaning as that. These people are on top of the caste system. This is why.
Yep. Yep. I figured out the time code problem. I refreshed the page, so I think it should work now because now I can see it. So this will make things
Excellent.
easier for all of us. All right. So now we're gonna jump ahead to.
And you're on your 6th shot, are you?
Yep. I've had 6.
What
had
are you
6.
drinking, by the way?
It's vodka.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It's a vodka
And
drink.
these are you're definitely like, this is like a full shot that you're taking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm okay. Well, it's more like I'm just, drinking from the container. So where was I? Okay. So you're making me lose my concentration. All right. So here we go. Next clip.
Black men for having votes before them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some of the things that was said, it was just really horrifying and exclusionary.
Yeah. And I have to say something also horrifying is when I was researching this, I got really disheartened with
Right.
all the top results because, I mean, like the first 2 were, feminism, yay.
Right.
But the rest of them were all like anti-feminist, women against feminism,
Right.
Ooh, so the
minimist.
first 2?
Yeah. So she basically says that she's like Googling because, that's how you do research now. So she was Googling the word feminism, I guess, and she came with 2 results, or maybe feminist organization groups or whatever. And the top 2 were feminist groups. And then after that, it was like, oh my God, triggered, anti-feminist. Let me just play the rest of this.
What?
Well, we need to go get those two
Meninist, I
top
What?
we need to claim those top 2.
Yes, we
results
do.
for us.
Yeah, we do.
Horrifying and exclusionary.
Yeah. And I have to say something also horrifying is when I was researching this, I got really disheartened with
Right.
all the top results because, I mean, like the first 2 were, feminism, yay.
Right.
But the rest of them were all like anti-feminist, women against feminism,
Right.
minimist. What?
Meninist, I still can't. I'm like,
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't even
difficult
make
to-
sense. Like, yeah, why, y'all?
Okay, so
Oh my
that's
God, men have
okay.
no
so
problems, right?
I'm gonna check off gender traitor for this because they had a problem with women against feminism. And
Mhm.
Meninist, I should have put Meninist on here. I think that could be its own thing because it keeps coming up. It keeps coming
It's a
up.
joke, you
I know, but
doofuses.
it's so I gotta drink to that.
Nobody has created an ideology in which society should be entirely defined by how it benefits men. In fact, no one on earth has such an
They
ideology.
still haven't figured out that that's a joke. You know how long this has been going on? Oh my God.
I know, it's been going on for years. Okay, and I know they haven't figured it out as a joke, but it's a joke because nobody in the history of humanity has ever proposed such a thing.
Yeah.
Although it was proposed for women, nobody in the history of humanity has ever proposed to have an ideology in which society should be judged by how it benefits men.
Yeah.
It has never happened, and it never will. And there is no movement that is comparable to feminism on the men's side. Because
No.
there's no movement founded on the idea that society should be judged exclusively by how it benefits men. None whatsoever, with no
Mhm.
consideration on the situation for women. There is no mirror to feminism. Feminism is on its own black
Yeah.
and white view of the world.
I'll you know what? Actually, though, they did say MRA, so I will check that as well. We are there this week, man. This is like there's a lot of boxes,
You
and
better get freaking
we're like
bingo
only a
because you're-
third. We're only a third into this, a third. So this is checking all the boxes, as it were. Okay, so let's. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna play a little bit more.
I
of
love
this
the
bit.
Parks and Rec though episode. I don't know. Did you watch Parks and
I
Rec?
did, yeah.
And the last couple of, I think it's the last season in which the Meninists come and fight for Ben. Because he's like, let Ben speak. And she's like, I just let him speak. And he's like, oh, okay, we just rode our bikes here. And it was just like a whole comical of calm down.
Right.
You want to talk about being enraged. This is one of those moments about being a snowflake, as you can say.
Oh, no.
Oh,
not
What the
dreaded
hell
snowflakes.
is it? What did she actually say?
What did who actually say?
So a comedy show had a comedy concept on it.
Yeah.
And she's
so
enraged by
there's
it?
there's a show called Parks and Recreation that is over now, and it was sort of like The Office, but it took place in a small town and their little like government, their little local government. And there was an episode that I stopped watching. I used to like that show because of Ron Swanson, by the way. Ron Swanson is the best guy on Parks and Rec. But anyway, I used to like that show. And I guess I stopped watching, but I guess in the last episode, or the last season rather, of the show, because it's over now, there was an episode that featured men's rights activists, but they were called Meninists, I think, or they were called something else. But I think it was actually meant to reference MRAs, not Meninists, because there are no Meninists. So, and they were, they showed up to essentially chant to let the man, one of the male characters on the show, who's actually like this big beta nerd that everyone walks all over, to like allow him to speak. And the main character, who is a woman, Amy Poehler's character, Leslie Knope, she says, I did let him speak. And they say, oh, well, we just got here on our bicycle. So essentially it's kind of like this, takes a jab at MRAs as a thing. It's the way that most of these, when television acknowledges MRAs, they always do this, this sort of, I don't know what you even call it. They basically take the piss out of them, but that they don't know what they're talking about. I think the closest thing to getting it almost right was that episode of Bones that we went through a while back, where there was a but even then they were like made into these like super conservative nuclear family,
which I don't really get, because there are
Stepford wife
super conservative
and
nuclear family advocates that are not us. Like, why are you applying their shtick to us? I mean,
yeah,
they often don't like us either.
No,
I mean, not
we
always,
have
yeah.
well, no, there's a lot of people that are divided within the men's community on like their values, whether they're conservative or liberal, whether they're on the left or on the right. I mean but at the end of the day, we have like generally the same desires, so we work together regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I think we better get
we're gonna
soon.
jump. No, I'll be fine.
This is affecting
I'll
you.
be fine.
This
no,
is,
you think so? I don't know.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Oh, okay.
All right, but continue.
Are my words starting to slur together? Okay.
No,
So they go on a break. They have a couple of sponsors.
Well, that was extremely onerous. They
Yeah.
have sponsors?
Yeah, I know, right? They have sponsors. Yes, they have sponsors.
Oh, of course. Well, of course they have sponsors, because
Yeah,
we're the mainstream podcast, and they're the alternative.
They're the plucky underdog. They don't have nobody supporting them. All right, let's keep going.
And we're back. Thank you, sponsor. So one of the things, when I mentioned at the top, seems to be some confusion.
Right.
One of the areas of confusion around feminism right now has to do with what wave are we in?
Right.
And just really quickly, the use of waves to describe feminism is a little misleading, because it suggests that feminism is a monolith, and that these monoliths...
Feminism isn't a monolith.
Oh, God, we got another one. Yeah.
Feminism is not a monolith.
It is not a monolith. Okay.
There is too much nuance, guys. Too much nuance. You can't even conceive of the amount of nuance within this movement.
And yet there is almost none.
Except that there is one thing that no matter what flavor you chose, you believe, which is something that's based on something that you cannot prove.
Yeah,
So-
well, you basically, every single flavor of feminism comes down to one thing. Society should be judged by how it benefits women. They may change in how they justify why society should benefit women.
Mm-hmm.
Should be judged by how it benefits women. They may change in that. There may be some particulars that are different. Maybe there's the justification is because Black people equal women, therefore women oppressed, or women equal trans people, therefore women oppressed, or women equal water lilies, therefore women oppressed, or women equal, I don't freaking know. Some other women equal
Beavers?
sex dolls, therefore women oppressed.
Yeah.
So essentially, different brands of feminism appropriate the victimhood of other groups in order to bolster their claim that society hates women or is set up against women, but they need that in order to justify why society should benefit women.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to that. And funnily enough, that was the foundational thought.
Just as an aside, Alison, because you mentioned the Twilight Zone thing, did you happen to see the trailer for Batwoman?
No, I have not.
Oh my god! Okay, can we do an episode? No, I'm going to come back. Can we go through that trailer on Friday? Because I don't have any, or Wednesday, I don't know, depending if I get a guest. Because, look, it'll be a lot of fun. It's only 2 minutes long, and it has wall-to-wall cringe. I mean, it's just, it's a gift, Alison. It's a gift for us. It is. I know the people watching know what I'm talking about. Okay, but anyway, we'll come back to that. It's just a trailer. It's just a trailer. It's like a female version of Edward Cullen from Twilight was like born. He looks like the woman looks like a gender swap of the guy from Twilight. Now that I think about it. Okay, but anyway, and it's interesting because the guy from Twilight was cast as Batman. I think that was all part of their plan. It's 4D chess. Okay, but anyway. So 1451. Let's go. Oh, we're still talking about what wave we're in. So we stopped at Monolith. You had me at Monolith, feminists.
Crest and fall at clear points, which is not the case.
Right.
It's also confusing because waves took place at different times around the world, so sometimes in different orders, like second wave feminism in America is equivalent to third wave in Europe, things like that. So according to a lot of folks, modern feminism is not in the fourth wave. Like, there's no wave. It's just intersectional feminism right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a continuation of the third wave. And there are a couple of things that are cornerstones of intersectional, this third.
Okay, I'm pausing it here. We're going to go into like a little bit more about because I think we might get some more boxes checked. But I like to I don't like to call them waves of feminism. I like to call them stages. Because Cancer also doesn't just jump from one thing to another and there's no cresting and falling. It just kind of like moves along. And at one point you have to say, I think you're at fourth stage of feminism now. So I think we're in the fourth stage or the Fourth Reich or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
But I like to say stages. I think that's actually a more relevant. As someone who has himself had fourth stage Cancer, I can tell you that this feels about the same, except that it's affecting the planet. So just to give you an idea of how bad things got. Okay. Anyway.
/ fourth wave of feminism, queerness, body and sex positivity, and trans inclusivity.
Right. Oh shit! Hold on, we just got a couple boxes. That should be LGBTQIAAPP2 and body positivity. Is that on here? I think it is. Yeah, there goes body positivity. Do we have bingo yet? Holy shit!
I can't freaking believe it. Like, you're gonna die before we get bingo. Okay. All right. We're going to get a blackout instead of bingo. Oh my God. And then Brian's going to be like,
it's okay. I'll be fine.
I know. Okay, fair enough. But how is this stuff?
I've been way drunker.
Here's the thing with intersectionality. Body positivity, queerness, and whatever else they said.
Trans inclusivity, I think.
Trans inclusivity. How is it that this stuff doesn't affect men? I mean, this is what intersectionality really is about. It's about saying that this stuff is owned by women. Like, these issues are owned by women. And they're the ones who get to appropriate and exploit these issues as bolstering their claims to victimhood as women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like none of this stuff explicitly has anything to do with women.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm sorry. At the very beginning of the podcast, and I'm really sorry I missed this, she gives a trigger warning. I swear to God she does. I can go back and even get it, but she does do that. I remembered because when I was listening, I was like, oh shit, trigger warning. So I checked it. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. If you need me to prove it, I'll go back and find it, but I think you'll trust me on that one. Definitely does do it, though. You can listen to it yourself.
And another important aspect of it is that a lot of it takes place online, like #MeToo, or it's conceived online.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like when the cancer like spreads into like your brain, and then it really gets bad. It's like the same thing.
Like the Women's March.
Right.
It's also largely concerned with justice for women and other marginalized groups. And
Okay,
Go ahead.
you're not concerned with justice for women anymore because none of your issues have anything to do with women anymore. Body positivity and queer and trans, that hasn't. There are trans men, there are queer men, there are fat men,
There are black men.
there are black men.
Mm-hmm.
None of those issues belong to you as white women. And yet intersectionality basically says that they do belong to you as white women. That's the purpose of intersectionality, is to create this moral caste system. So you are on the top as a white woman, as the advocate for all of these issues to the politically powerful, and then below you are all the priests of the various sub victimhoods who deliver onto you your power.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a regression in our society.
Yep. I'll play the rest of this clip.
In 2014, some internet trolls tried to launch a fourth wave of feminism that was pro-sexualization, pro-skinny, and anti-fat.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they men, these trolls, or was it done
I
by
would
women?
assume,
Well, of
but
course
yeah.
they would be
Yeah.
men, because
Only a man would do that.
Only a man would be so horrific. Like,
Isn't
the
it
contempt,
interesting?
And then they turn around and say that the feminism isn't about man hating.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it interesting that they say it's trolls that started this, and that it was about thinness and sexualization, as though women don't themselves like kind of favor that also. It's as if there aren't women that are thin and like being thin, as if there aren't women that want to be sexual, that work in sex, that are like sex workers, or they're in the sex industry, or they're in porn,
Yeah, I
or
think
whatever.
this is basically against the sex worker
Oh,
movements. And the thing is that women's ideal changed before men's. Men's ideal used to be more curvy, and then women were the ones who were like, "Oh, Twiggy is so beautiful." And then a generation later, men's ideals started to conform to women's thinner ideal. But that's when you look at the beauty ideal, it's women who decide it first, and then men who follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and it's the reason why is because I think it's really about who other women admire. I mean, we're not really as hierarchical as some species, but in general, people of the same social rank tend to get together. And when women decide that thin women are the beautiful ones, they are going to be more attractive to the men who are a higher social rank. But it's the women who decided it,
Yeah.
who decided who was on top to begin with. And then that's just lost to the mists of history. All of women's actual control over social phenomenon like the beauty ideal, all of women's social control over things like a religion, just lost. And the whole process of losing our ability to see how women affect the world around them isn't considered by these women to be its own form of its own kind of problem, let's say. A big problem.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I don't have any super. Oh yeah, no, I did get a super chat. I'm sorry. Fresher Luke again. He said, "Thank you. I just gotta move some things around. Down the whole bottle in one go, Brian, and gives us $2. Well, I'm not gonna do it for $2.
Please don't.
Besides, I would,
encourage
but I appreciate the enthusiasms that you're pushing it on me. Okay, so I'll play the rest of this clip, and then we only have jump ahead a bit because they kind of like ramble a lot.
I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure probably.
I mean, the big back and forth about the pro-skinny, anti-fat has been a thing back and forth for a little while. The whole gap challenge and all of that. I know that happened like 3 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it was
How about just let women do whatever they want, and if they decide that they just want to be fat, then let them be fat. But that doesn't mean we should praise them for it, and that doesn't mean that men have to like it. And if they want to be skinny, then let them be skinny. And again, that doesn't mean we have to praise them for it, and that doesn't mean that men have to like it. You know, it's like they want to control.
Controlling.
Yeah, it's about they want to control people's opinions, and actually that comes out that comes out pretty blatantly a little bit later. Let's jump ahead because I'm not gonna
Yeah, it's getting a little boring.
I know. I want to jump ahead to something a little bit interesting.
The frank truth is every time you listen to this stuff, there are no new ideas.
Nope. That's
Like,
why
none.
that's why we have a bingo card. And it's actually like that's it because you can kind of like you know what's going to come out and you like it would be great if I listened to one of these, and I listened to a lot of these. It'd be great if I listened to one of these and there was a perspective that supported an argument that I always hear that made me think about the argument in a new way, but there never is ever. It's all just
Yeah.
regurgitation. It's all regurgitation.
The only thing new that feminism does is acquire new victimhoods.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this goddamn corporate monolith. It's newness. Its whole concept of being new is just to acquire a new property and piss all over it.
Yeah.
And that's not actually new. All your intersectionality and all of your various sub flavors of victimhoods that you've acquired for yourself, it's not new. That's not being new. That's not being creative. That's being like Nazi Germany and annexing Poland.
Mm-hmm. All right, let us continue.
An increased maternal mortality resulting from harmful practices. And we could link that to today's discussion about abortion laws and abortion.
Okay, so I'm going to stop for this for a second. I did skip ahead past this bit, but they talked about something called femicide. And it's crazy because I don't want to play it too long, but I mean, I could go back and play some of it if you want. But basically,
they're encroaching on pretty dangerous territory if they're going to talk about femicide, because
that's
that seems
it.
like it's hate speech towards certain groups of people.
Well, they talked about femicide, and basically the way it's framed is femicide is when a woman is killed by a man because she is a woman. But the problem is that it is impossible to determine in a lot of cases that the reason why a woman might be killed by a man, and it could be also applied to a girl or a baby or something, it can be difficult to determine that the reason is because he hates her because she's a woman. And then they do what they actually talk about how many times female newborns and babies are killed. And they call that femicide. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, who's killing them? Do you really think that men are going around throwing their babies at walls? Because I'm sure it happens somewhere, but come on. You're telling me that that's not like women aren't doing that to their own babies sometimes? Here's
the thing. That femicide is happening in cultures where boys are insurance policies for old age.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, if you actually look at the infant mortality in our society, there's a very strong argument to say that we are practicing homicide against baby boys.
Yeah.
Because the rate at which baby boys are being born or killed is higher. The rate at which baby boys are being born is lower than it is around the world. And the rate at which they're being killed as infants is higher in Western societies. So you can point to these other societies and say they're practicing femicide, but these are societies in which boys are literally an insurance policy for your old age. So what's really happening is parents are, out of economic necessity, choosing to put their resources in the group of, or the people, their children, that they know will support them or be expected socially to support them in their old age. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. But in the West, we just hate boys.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's nothing like that in the West. There's no real strong social pressure aside from just disliking boys to kill them. And the thing I wanted to mention is the reason why they think femicide is a thing is actually because we think that the appropriate victims of violence are men. So when a woman is subjected to violence, we think it's because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Exactly. Again, it's because we so strongly believe that men are the appropriate victims of violence. It's such an innate belief in us that when someone kills a woman, we're like, well, why didn't he choose a man? Like, it must be because he hates women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's never addressed by these individuals.
Nope. Okay, so let me see. Oh yeah, right. Abortion
bans. because obviously this is a big concern of what these laws are indicating, and what could result is more maternal deaths. And we already know people of color, Black women, are more likely to die from the lack of health care and from the lack of medical attention. So this is really, really problematic. And so the discussion of femicide is, are we enabling them more and more? And this is, again, I think why I get really passionate when we talk about feminism as a need. And it should be called feminism. It needs a label. It needs a title, because it's too big to just generalize. Although feminism, I guess, could be generalizing whatever. But the fact that it...
Okay, I'm just pausing it there. We got a My
Oh,
Body,
God,
My
I found the
Choice.
abortion.
And
Yeah.
the label thing, I guess I already covered that in
Can I
another
just?
way. So
I'm just so freaking bored with the
abortion discussion.
abortion debate. I mean,
Yeah.
I had like a 2-tweet argument with a feminist, and literally, she tweeted something sort of at me, and I responded, and then she just went completely radio silent, probably
Mhm.
blocked me.
Mhm.
And what she tweeted at is, "I just don't want men to be in any way involved in deciding about abortion." And I'm like, if men were the ones deciding about abortion, you'd be more likely. It would be more likely to be something that's completely uncontested right that women have. If it were up to men, abortion would be more likely to be a completely uncontested right that women have. And then she had nothing to say to that, because statistically, it is the truth. So, the only thing that I want to say about this abortion debate is, ladies, other women don't want you to have the ability to have an abortion.
Mhm.
They, like you, want to decide what you get to do with your body as a woman. And it's so funny, because they will do the same thing. Like, these women will, in being a quote unquote good feminist, call other women out for what they do with their bodies. And then they don't like it when it's returned, the favor is returned by pro-life women.
I forgot to
But it's
drink
just
for a couple, but I just did.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so let's continue.
I hope we get bingo before you die.
Oh no, I think we will.
Doubt. Are we still
I'm
on?
back. I'm back. I don't know what happened. OBS dropped and then it came back.
All right.
It's back. I don't know why that is. So we'll anyway, we'll continue. I'll go back a little bit. Well, no, actually you didn't miss anything. I paused it as soon as
No,
I
I
got the
doubt it did.
notification. Yeah.
The slut walk, Me Too, Time's Up, Yes All Women, Emma Watson's He for She UN campaign, 1 Billion Rising, and the Women's March.
Right.
But it does have some problems. Call-out culture is one thing, just because it can make movement appear hostile.
Right.
Oh, look at that. So they have criticisms. I mean, the shit they're okay with is kind of shitty anyway. The Women's March, Me Too, Women's March is like, it's completely directionless, and it's based on some bullshit that it doesn't, did not happen the way they think. And of course, hashtag Me Too is destroying people. It's a giant sledgehammer that's just like ending people's careers and stuff. But now we're gonna get into some of the bad things, which are more like side effects. So
it sometimes is hostile, and it can keep potential allies away or silent. And this isn't to say something shouldn't be called out if it's wrong.
Right.
But it is something that I hardly ever tweet, because I'm like, what if people could read this in a way? And it's such a, like, I petted a cat today. I'm like, oh God.
Right. I mean, the whole, I think, and I know that was a conversation about social media warrior. Is that what it is?
God.
Okay.
Make a point.
I know.
And it's good that we do call each other out, but it becomes so hostile that it becomes feminist versus feminist.
Yeah.
Or even to the point that when people
Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep doing that. No, seriously. Keep increasing the level of misery, the background radiation of misery in your culture, because it's a great selling point for us.
Yeah, they can also, you guys can probably still blame patriarchy in some way for that, like, because like men built the internet. So, yeah.
No.
Well, I'm back up. It says I'm back up. Connection successful, and there it is. So I don't know. We'll see. I apologize, guys. We're back. I don't know why that happens.
We
so.
don't have any clue why this is. I mean,
Yeah, we don't
Brian's
know
got
what's
his
going
internet
on.
upgraded, and
Yeah. I should not have any problems. I don't know why this is happening. So something going on at YouTube, maybe. I don't want to say. I don't know. But anyway, what was the? Oh yeah, so we're talking about them calling each other out. So, let's
yeah.
get
Did
to.
I get that whole?
Yeah, no, actually,
bringing-
it dropped just as you were hurrying.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, that they're in a bit of a pickle here, because these ladies, I mean, they can't go, it's men is the blame. They can't do that.
No, that's why
because
they're
it is other women that they're dealing with.
Yeah, that's why they're doing it with they're handling it with kid gloves, right? They're like, oh well,
Yeah.
one of the problems is there is a little bit of an overreaction from call out culture. It can get a little bit aggressive. But sometimes though, it's just people being defensive. And when you write things, the written word looks, sometimes it's hard to tell whether it's something offensive or not. By the way, if men criticize us though, they're just being misogynists.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is such a childish psychological phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
They actually are afraid of other women, and they hate what other women are doing, but they project it onto men because it's easier to bully the person below you than it is to stand up to the person stepping on you.
Yeah.
And that's all this is. And I just want to say that I don't know if this came through originally, but feminism has nothing for women who do not want the role of victim.
No, it doesn't. All right, I got a super chat from Catherine Scully. She says, I saw a post on Facebook that said, teach your son to be a gentleman, teach your daughter to accept nothing less. Well, of course, that's pretty normal. And that doesn't have to be a feminist statement. That's just a general sentiment. That's the way we are, in general. So, all right, I'll play the rest of this clip here.
Emojis or wink something, it feels hostile. You know what I mean?
Social media is so strange.
But that's the problem. It's you don't doing a text back and forth. There's so much leeway for miscommunication and misunderstanding. One misquote can take you down completely.
All right, so let me just jump ahead. There's just something about that. We'll go to here, 2401, where they talk a little bit about people doing feminism wrong.
And ableism, because who can afford the technology, who has the time
Right.
of feminism.
Mm-hmm.
So companies being like, aha, we can make money off of this,
Right.
which is kind of antithetical to feminism in a way.
Right.
And also technology that because it's dependent on technology, it impacts who can participate.
Right.
And exacerbates the classism and ableism because who can afford.
Isn't that ridiculous? It's classism that companies use social media to promote feminism because poor people don't have the internet. Do you do you realize that in my neighborhood there's Section 8 housing, which is basically publicly funded housing. All the people who live in those houses have the internet and they have cell phones and they have computers. It's so weird to make that assumption. Oh, those poor brown people that are feminists, they can't be a part of the conversation because they don't have their, because of classism and a corporation. It's so silly. But anyway,
for the technology, who has the time,
Right.
Who can use it.
Right.
So that's a concern. And another criticism I've seen is celebrities being at the forefront of a lot of the public perception or understanding of feminism, which means mainstream feminism is affluent and white again,
Right.
classist and white.
And you and I talked about this earlier about Alyssa Milano. But
Who the hell do you think you guys are?
yeah, right. With
I
your
guarantee you're affluent and white. Sponsors, totally mainstream. What the heck where do you think you're getting off with this nonsense?
Yeah, really.
I mean, I live in a rural area, which in many cases there's a more poverty in rural areas, and we also have the internet, by the way, ladies. I know that might be surprising to you that that's the case, that poor people can have the internet. Jesus Christ.
I know, right? It's-
Do poor people have interior plumbing? Do they have interior plumbing? Do they have
we're
toilets?
gonna go with privilege on that one, by the way. So I'll drink to that. But go ahead.
Oh God. But just the level of arrogance is astounding
Mm-hmm.
that these women have. The sheer level of arrogance. And the other thing is that I'm listening to them, and none of the things that they're actually talking about really affect women. They're all appropriations of other groups' victimhoods and appending them to women. I mean, have they even talked to, well, I guess they think that body positivity only affects women because
Mhm.
it's not like men are injecting steroids or starving themselves or over exercising or doing any of these other things. And in fact, statistically, it's actually been shown that that young men have body positivity issues too, and may have more than young women.
They have
Because they don't
self-image
it,
issues. Yeah,
they have self-image issues, but also self-image issues
that's what I'm
on par
talking
with
about.
women's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. On par with women. So that's not an issue exclusive to women. None of the things that they've brought up are issues exclusive to women, but what happens is that they, like the blob, consume them, and they basically cut something like racism in half. They take the half that they're interested in, make
Mm-hmm.
the other half worse, and ignore it.
Yeah.
So they don't actually get rid of racism or even challenge it. None of these women will. They actually make it worse. They just appropriate what's interesting to them, which is how it can frame them as victims, and then they just let the rest of it go and get worse and
Mm-hmm.
fall into worse and worse series of decay. And they don't actually address the issue. I mean, this is what's so freaking amazing, is this action by these women and feminism is like a predatory company going into a poor country, consuming all of its resources and leaving toxic pools for them to clean up.
Yep.
That's what it's doing. And the toxic pools, like it consumes racism when it comes to the black community, but it only concerns itself with racism as it touches black women. So by only concerning itself with racism as it touches black women and calling black men the white men of their communities, we never have to actually deal with any kind of racism as it affects black men, like the systematic removal of black men from their families and communities or imprisonment. We don't really have to deal with that because the only racism that matters is the racism that's useful to feminists.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is sickening. Like it's they're so self-righteous about the horrors that they're enacting.
Oh yeah. No. They're convinced that they're not creating any problems. That they're just identifying them.
No, we're girls. We're
But the-
always victims.
yeah.
We can't be responsible for anything.
But the instruments they're using are doing damage. By the way, it's a bit weird to bring up the blob after we talked about body positivity. But okay, Alison. Let's move on.
It was a sex strike, and I was like, what's happening? And there's been a lot of controversy back and forth on her and how it is ableist and it is very much heteronormative ideas.
Oh, wow. The sex strike is ableist and heteronormative. What?
White.
You just keep eating each other. It's
like white
fucking
feminism.
glorious.
This is what we were
Right,
talking
right.
about, and how
Oh, and apparently it's white to go on a sex strike too. And that's a black woman, by the way. The two women on this podcast is a black woman and a white woman. So
Oh, they don't have a
problematic.
trans woman. I guess they didn't get the kill.
No, they're not. They're not. They aren't doing feminism very well. They're not very intersectional at all, actually.
an exclusionatory for many others.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, you should definitely try. For me, I'm a little confused.
You should definitely try to not have sex.
I mean, like if that's something you're passionate about, I guess go for
Okay.
it. But I mean, huh? But that's just me. That's just me.
Oh Jesus
Uh-huh.
Christ, Brian! Can we just skip forward?
Okay,
'Cause
okay,
is
okay,
there
I'll
anything
skip.
more in here?
Yeah. There is a lightning round, so we can jump ahead to 31 minutes and 40 seconds.
As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates
this
so
is a
you
freaking-
never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective.
Wait, that's their ad. It's ZipRecruiter. Where's the?
What's ZipRecruiter? Is that like a?
That's their
It's-
sponsor.
They
I don't know
have
what it
a
is.
sponsor, which is an employment app.
Yeah.
Like, how is this even? How can they even, with a straight face, say that they are not mainstream?
I don't know.
They're so.
I think I know what I
mainstream.
did wrong. It's 30-40 then, maybe not 31-40.
Okay, all right. I'll give you a pass. 'cause
children and the
you're drinking.
lifestyles as of this time and age. But that's the problem, is like there's people who are so cut and dry. It's like, if you're doing this, then you're doing it wrong,
Right.
and that's problematic in itself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, man. No, I think I was right. Let's just go. I'm sorry, Alison. Sorry, dudes. I'll find it.
So
Yeah,
we
I can
wanted
find it.
to
Here we go.
end with the question of why we still need feminism, because I've seen, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen, well, men and women
Because there
are
are
equal
still
now.
victimhoods out there for you to exploit.
Yeah.
That's
we
why
have
you
to
need
we have to
feminism.
find new ways to create victimhood, no matter what is accomplished. That's why it will never end.
So I don't know why we still do this. Well, it's not true, but yeah, we still aren't equal. We don't make the same pay, the same work.
Of
Boom.
course, you're never
My
gonna
wage
equal
gap.
as long as you.
Boom. Let me drink.
The fuck, we still don't have bingo. How the hell? Okay, you're
We
never
still
gonna
tell
be
girls that
equal
their
as long
value is in their
as
looks
long
and their
as you embrace the identity of victim.
Mm-hmm.
You are only ever going to look for what confirms your
style.
identity.
So I don't know
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just going back a little bit. So yeah,
why we
wage
still
gap.
do this.
Maybe I'll
Well,
just
it's
write
not
as it
true,
goes.
but
I don't know what
yeah,
she's gonna
we
say.
still aren't equal. We don't make the same pay, the same work. We
Mhm.
still tell girls that their value is in their looks and their sexual desirability to men.
Mhm.
And we do that all kinds of ways, through our media, through our clothes, the toys we market to girls that for a long time have revolved around motherhood and domestic life. We can't walk around the streets expecting the same level of safety or comfort.
Oh, sounds like
Versus
rape
what
culture.
the
What the fuck are
Right.
you talking about?
every time I
Expecting the
leave-
same level of
the same damn
safety or
standards
comfort.
of the fact that
Go
What are
ahead.
you comparing yourself to? What are you comparing your experience to? Men are far more likely to be murdered, and rape is, we don't even know.
We got
Quite
bingo.
frankly, we don't even know. Thank fuck we got bingo. Okay, so we don't have to deal with this anymore. It's done. Let's go to the after show.
All right, we're
I'm
gonna go into
fucking
the
done with
after
this.
show. All right, thanks guys. They actually there is a little bit more. This is I honestly I think that this almost fills every box almost. But thanks guys. We managed to score bingo. I should drink also, by the way.
Oh god.
We're gonna head in the after show. If you want to be a part of the after show, you have to go to feedthebadger.com and become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com, which is down at the bottom of the screen there. And that'll get you into the Discord for a few shekels. You can also do a one-time donation. Does that get them into the Discord too, by any chance? I don't know. So
It doesn't. No, you have to actually
Okay.
become a subscriber.
a
to
monthly
get into the
subscriber. Yeah.
Discord.
So just do that. And yeah, be sure to hang out with us in the after show. Also, real quick, before we get out of here, I want to thank you guys for coming on and playing bingo with us and the drinking game and stuff. And also hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit the bell for notifications, as well as leave a comment with your thoughts on this podcast. There is a link to it below so you can listen to the whole thing in context so you know that we're not misrepresenting their views. But I think you guys know that we're not misrepresenting their views.
I mean, how could we misrepresent their views? Their views do not change. I mean, the sound of the voices change. The feminist starter kit changes.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes you have a black woman and a white woman. Sometimes you have a black woman and a white woman and a trans woman. Sometimes you have an Asian woman and a white woman and a trans woman. Sometimes you have a gay guy and a black woman, and it's the voices change. They sometimes do a palette swap, but
Yeah.
nothing changes about their views.
Nope. Nothing is added and nothing was lost. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks guys for coming on the Rantzerker /bingo hour. And we'll talk to you guys next time.